Hello, wonderful humans, and welcome back to Sargy Style. I'm Sarge, and I am so excited to have you here today. If you're new to my channel, welcome, and if you are returning, welcome back. It is great to see you again. So today's video, we have a couple fun little different things. The first of which is I have a guest with me today, the one and only Lee Rummery.
Hello.
This is my spouse, my partner, my better other second half, whatever you want to call it. This is my boo. So he is joining me today because we are going to be talking about our personal experience with the housing crisis in the United States that's happening right now, particularly living in a boom city. So for those of you who are not from the United States, I will explain to you a little bit about what the housing crisis is, which basically right now in the U.S., and I think it is starting to shift.
It seems like it's starting to.
It seems like it's starting to shift, but like, who knows? Jinx. So in the United States, the housing crisis is, oh my God. Will you explain it because my brain is shutting down on it? Please and thank you.
So basically, the wages that you're paid don't equal out to what it takes to be able to afford a home, whether that be rent or buy.
Cool. Perfect. Thank you.
Easy enough.
So in the U.S., this is becoming a problem all over, and then there are a handful of cities that are, I think, called boom cities. Where the population has exploded. We live in a place like that. So we live in Denver, Colorado. We're both from Colorado. We are natives. And in the last 10 years, the population of Denver has grown, I don't even know how much. I didn't research this statistic, but there were several years there where there were over 100,000 people moving into Denver proper every single month.
That's a lot.
Yeah, 100,000 people a month moving into Denver, which was not a big city. So like pre this massive boom, Denver was a pretty like sleepy cow town that nobody really cared about. Which I liked.
Right.
But now it's this like big, trendy, cool place, and when things become trendy and cool, they become crazy expensive. So not only are we living in a time where it's economically really, really hard to find housing, we live in a city where it's even harder. So we kind of wanted to share our experience with you all. Being that we are millennials who are suffering from who have suffered from this housing crisis. We both graduated from college in 2009, which is the same year that the economy tanked, basically.
Yeah. So
we are also part of that like subgroup of millennials who got like double screwed over because when we graduated there were really truly no jobs. So that has affected us a lot throughout the last 10 years, but our video will be way too long if we get into that. So I am going to, since Lee did not live in Colorado right after he graduated, when did you move back to Denver?
2011.
2011.
Or 12. Sometime
Okay.
around there.
Cool. So I blah 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 speak English, and also I went to the University of Colorado in Boulder, and so right after I graduated I moved back to Denver. So in 2009 I was living in a duplex it was a 2-bedroom duplex, huge, beautiful, had a fireplace, a really nice open kitchen, tons of windows. It was gorgeous, and it was in a very desirable neighborhood, like very, very popular neighborhood. And we paid $775 total a month for it, which means my rent was less than $400 a month. I lived there for several years. I had like kind of rotating roommates. I loved that place. And then in 2012, I ended up having to move out with 30 days notice because my landlord decided it was suddenly going to be $1,600 a month. Welcome to Denver. So I ended up actually living with my parents for 3 months, and then I found a job working at a restaurant because that's what I did with my degree for the first like 6 years after college.
You and me both.
Yeah, huh? Woo! Made coffee and taught yoga. So glad I went to college. I am glad I went to college to stay in school.
It's cool.
It's cool to be in school. Yeah. Yeah, I am. You made me lose my thought.
That's about the time that we met, is when she left her parents' house.
Yeah, okay, thanks, love. So I lived with my parents for a few months, and then I got a job at this restaurant, which is the restaurant that I actually met this fool at. And that's where the rest of our story is sort of going to begin. So in 2013, Lee and I moved in together. So, Lee, what was our first apartment like?
It was wood-paneled hell. That we paid way too much for, but that's what the prices were at the time. So
they weren't as bad then either.
No, it's gotten worse.
It
But
was about $1,000 a month.
It was a one-bedroom apartment with seriously wood paneling all over it. Like, I wasn't exaggerating about that.
No, it was awful.
But we only had the one bathroom, one bedroom, and it cost us, I think it was $950 or up to $1,000. It was in that price range.
And it was one of those weird bathrooms where it like was
the
kind
bathroom
of
and the shower, and then outside of it was the sink.
the sink. So like, if someone came over, they like saw your bathroom. It was like one of the first things you saw when you came into the apartment. It was real cute, real lovely, and like the hallway kitchen where we couldn't open the refrigerator all the way, or because it would like hit the yeah.
It's tiny.
It was tiny. So that was our first place.
Yep.
And we had horrible ants.
Yep.
Horrible ant problem infestation in that building. We lived on the 15th floor. Yeah, weird. So we were on a wait list. We finally got a 2-bedroom apartment there and paid, I think, like
I want to say 12.
No, it was more than that.
Was it?
Yeah.
Anyway,
at this
around
point, who
then.
knows? We paid and it was like, for that one, it was kind of like reasonable. It was a big unit. It was a big apartment. And the balcony was really sketchy. We later found out that it was totally not up to code and was actually falling out of the
building.
The building. So like, that's fun and cute, but not. So we lived there, still had the huge ant issue. I had a sewage pipe burst on me in the ceiling and then on me while I was taking a bath at one point. That was really gross and fun with infections. The elevator was constantly broken. There was always like something going on with the building, because the thing is, as all of these people were moving into Denver, what was once a sleepy town was suddenly becoming very desirable. So people were charging crazy amounts of money for units and for apartments and for properties that had not been updated or maintained properly at all. These are buildings that were built in like the early 1900s that had never been updated, and that's why a pipe burst on me, is because it literally had rotted away with time. So we were living in these just like god-awful apartments, and we finally found this cute little duplex, and we found it because a friend of mine was moving out, and was like, "Hey, you wouldn't by chance want to live in a
In a duplex.
thank you, in a duplex?" I don't have any fibrofog at all today. I'm fine. Um, so we ended up taking over her lease, and that place was also expensive. You could just assume that everything is expensive. Um, and we lived there for almost 2 years.
Actually, a little over 2
A
years.
little over 2 years. And then last summer is when it became a living nightmare. Would you like to tell the story of the living nightmare?
So this place went from being all right and little to no problems, and one night basically that all changed. So she had just had nose surgery to, anyhow.
Yeah, I had like
Not
massive
reconstruction, but like.
I had massive sinus surgery where they like rebuilt my nasal system.
So she's in recovery from that, and
It was the same day.
It was the same day. Oh, I'm aware of that. So I'm sitting up. We're sitting upstairs. I'm talking with her, taking care of her, and I hear something. Keep hearing it. I go downstairs. Sure enough, a pipe has burst. Half of our basement is flooded. All of our stuff is just like soaked. So I rush over, try to figure out what the problem is, get the water shut off, but nothing's draining. Turns out that one of the sewage pipe that lets it all out had been concrete filled, so it wasn't able to get out. We call the landlords. After a long process, they finally get someone in there, suck out the water, blow the fans through it, try to dry it all out. We had fans in the house for 2 to 3 days. So
I don't remember any of this. I was on the good stuff.
Oh yeah. No, you weren't there for this.
Was I at my parents' house?
No, you were there, but you weren't.
It was a pretty big surgery. I was out of it.
Yeah. Anyhow, as we're getting through that situation, she starts to get her sense of smell back. I have a horrible sense of smell. I know it, but I wasn't able to smell this. She was. She kept smelling something rotten, something mildewy, whatever. We thought it was mildew in the basement. Turns out,
or mold or something.
Yeah. Turns out it was a sewage pipe that had been capped off and just never been done anything with it. So there was actual shit in this pipe.
In the wall.
In the walls.
When I had my surgery, I lost my sense of smell for a couple months. And then the first thing I smelled, when I started to get my sense of smell back was like rotting. It was this rotting smell. And it got so bad, and it was over the summer. So it was when it was like hot and the walls were like heating up. It would get really, really bad. And at one point I could like taste it. And I had a panic attack and was like, I can't be here anymore. Something, like there's obviously something is going on. Like I can taste this smell. It's so bad. So at that point is when we finally, because we had been telling the landlords for like weeks that something was wrong. And they finally sent somebody out.
After I basically convinced him by saying I was going to get someone out on my own.
Right. And the person found a drainage pipe from the toilet into the wall that was just sealed off. Just so like there was literally human waste in our wall rotting. Like what kind of slumlord does that? Like what, who, what, why, how? I mean, we even found our heater blocked off. They had blocked off our heater. It was so cold in this house in the winter, like miserable. And we finally, like the guy who came to fix something was like, "Oh, your heater's blocked." And he like pulled these panels out and suddenly our heater worked. So it like they would do the weirdest stuff. Like, yeah, they filled our drain with cement. Yeah. All this stuff. Okay. Anyway, continue. We finally got them to see that there was raw sewage in the wall. it's a theme.
So with that being said, after that, we started to find more and more stuff that was going wrong with the place that had just been overlooked or neglected or whatever for extended periods of time. There was a major crack in the foundation that spread up all the way through the house, but mainly in the basement. There was actually a point where it led out to the outdoors, and there was a slow leak into the house. Anytime it would rain, the sprinklers would go on, anything
It's
like
a
that.
broken sprinkler that sprayed right into it.
Yeah. So the place was collapsing around us, which led us to the point where we realized that it was time for us to get out of there because we were either going to get forced out, deal with construction, or we just didn't want to put up with it anymore.
Yeah.
Or couldn't put up with it anymore.
And it was sort of like feeling unsafe a little bit too. To have someone with health problems living in a property like that, we were like, what are you hiding from us? Because they really didn't want us having anybody test air quality or anything like that. So it was about that time, so about 2 years ago, that we decided to start looking into purchasing a home. And wow, that was a surprising experience. It is so expensive. So the market has definitely shifted in Denver, and at that point, it was still sort of at the peak.
Yeah.
The average house was between $600,000 and $700,000, and I'm not talking like nice house. I'm talking one bedroom, or not one bedroom, one bathroom, like small house that could use some some remodeling.
Exactly.
These are not like over $500,000, what you would picture getting for over $500,000. And in a lot of cases, people ended up having to go in and redo the foundation and redo the plumbing and redoing the electric and all of these things, because these are houses that were built in like the early 1900s or to like the 30s.
Yeah.
Things like that, especially in the part of town that we live in.
Yeah. So basically, we kept looking at these places, even some of the condos that are like mostly some of the condos slash duplexes that were around 400 to 500, and each time we would go in, we'd vibe it out, see it, and we kept finding this pattern of every time we went in, it was already sold. So we talked to one of the real estate agents, and they basically said, actually they said straight out, that basically anything you look at now is already sold. In order to buy a place, you have to be with the agent so that they can tell you multiple weeks before it even goes on market so that you can have any chance at buying it. And even in that case, you have to put money down the second you see it, because otherwise the next person going to come through, snatch it up.
Yep. And at that point, there were still a lot of people coming from other places and like investing, because Denver was growing so rapidly. So they would be doing cash offers at like 20 grand over asking. So someone like us, we had no hope. So we decided to take a break. We ended up moving out of there and into the apartment we are in now, and getting a rental property again was truly horrific. So at the point that we were looking for the apartment that we're in right now, I was still disability pending. So in 2016, I lost my job. It took about 3 years, just under 3 years-ish, for them to process my claim and approve me for disability. In between that time, I was just deemed unemployed. I didn't receive any unemployment benefits or anything like that. I just sort of was waiting. And so we were looking to rent another apartment during this time period. And we got rejected from so many apartment complexes and properties and all of that, for the simple fact that I didn't have a job. And being disabled is the same. They say it's the same thing as being unemployed, which to me felt really unfair. Yeah, I don't know. It just like seemed like, I don't know, but that's a whole other story. So a lot of places said, okay, well, your parents have to co-sign. We're in our 30s and they were saying our parents had to co-sign. Our parents are retired. If they weren't retired, our parents needed to be making over $100,000 a year. I almost said a month. Over $100,000 a year to co-sign for a one-bedroom apartment. That's crazy to me. Just because I'm disabled. That's it. So we finally found this apartment complex, and their way around the whole like inconvenience of my health was to make us put down $4,000 in a security deposit. So our security deposit for this place was $4,000. The apartment is under 600 square feet. It's a one bedroom, one bathroom, super small. No, like, it's so hot in here. We have like no airflow. There's no outside access. The building has a gym, but literally every single piece of equipment is broken. We were told we'd get a storage unit. We never got one. It's just a terrible place to live. We're at a very busy intersection, so like for me to try to go for a walk is really difficult because we're just like surrounded by chaos. So we ended up moving in here because it was living in a construction site or here. So we chose here. It's, how much are we paying? It's like $1,300.
Yep, just about $1,300.
So we pay just about $1,300 a month to live here, which is crazy to me. And I am grateful to have a roof over my head. And there have definitely been times where family members have stepped in and helped us, so we didn't. So we could make rent, because it's been really hard to pay these crazy high prices, especially when halfway through, suddenly, surprise, we're a one-income household. That was very unexpected. And it's just been this like constant struggle for us to find a roof over our heads, to just keep a roof over our heads. And it's not even a matter of having a place that we like or a place that's comfortable. It's literally just a place to have to live. And we do have to stay in Denver proper. A lot of people have said, oh, well, move to the suburbs or move to, outside of like Denver proper and the prices will be lower. And first of all, they're not that much lower realistically, because we looked. They're not that much lower. And also, I don't drive at all. I can't drive because of my handful of my conditions, and so I have to live central to where I can take the bus to my appointments, or I can take a ride share to my appointments, or if I want to see other people, I can do that without having to like make it be this huge giant ordeal. Like if I want to leave my apartment and like get a cup of coffee and sit and be amongst other like humanity, I would like to be able to do that without it having to cost me like $50 to take a lift from the suburbs to like a coffee shop that's not known for making super sweet blended coffee drinks. I don't know if I'm allowed to say the brand name.
Enough said.
Enough said. So that's been really hard. So we took time off, and then this spring, we started house hunting again, so in May, and we decided to just go slow and steady, and the right place would show up when it was time, but we weren't willing to force it, because we've definitely watched a handful of our peers and people we know panic buy and get something that's either too big or too expensive or in a weird part of town that they hate. And like when you buy something, you're kind of stuck with it.
Exactly.
So, do you want to tell them about our second adventure in looking for housing?
Well, we luckily found a great real estate agent, and
Love him.
yeah, he's been wonderful and showed us multiple places, was always willing to work with us. He really understood, our limitations, what we were able to afford, the parts of town that we were looking at, and show us a bunch of places. If they didn't work, he never showed any ill feelings about it. He just kind of went with the flow.
Yeah, super patient, super understanding.
And after a few months of looking,
We found a place! So we officially have bought our very own condo. Yes!
Score!
So yay! That is the news that I've been so excited to share with you all, is that we finally found our home. And I am so beyond grateful for everything. Like, I just am like babbling idiot with gratitude for the people who have helped us along the way. I'm grateful to Lee. I'm grateful to everyone, because it has been so difficult to not feel like I've had a home or like we have had a home. And because of my health, I spend like 98% of my time at home, and it's really, really hard when your home is miserable and it's this uncomfortable, poorly maintained, and like not by us, by whomever owns it, property. It's very, very difficult. It has had huge impacts on my mental health, or just like my mental health, my wellness, my physical health and wellness, everything. Like, it has really, really affected us in, I'm sure, ways we don't even realize, but in ways that we do realize, it has had huge negative impact on just our overall joy. Living in a place that you hate and also really, really struggling to afford it is so hard. Especially when it's like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, it wasn't. Like, Denver was a really easy town to afford to live in, and so it's been really, really hard. So I am so grateful, and I am so excited to see what happens to me and my wellness when I am in a space that I feel safe in, that I feel comfortable in, and that is ours, so that we can really modify it to fit our needs, and we're not having to deal with these awful slumlords and landlords that are taking advantage of us and taking advantage of the fact that I'm unemployed, disability pending. That's ridiculous, because it was an extra $2,000.
Yeah.
It was an extra $2,000, and like, I'm sorry, but that seems ridiculous to me. So, I'm just really excited, and I have been so excited to tell you guys. But I did want to give you the background of what it's like and what it's been like, because living in a boom city during this period of time in American history where housing is already so hard it's shocking how difficult it has been, and it's hard to explain it to people who don't live it. So that's kind of like our big news, and that's what I wanted to share with you all. So I'm really excited to have you be on the journey of moving with us. My videos may be a little bit sporadic for a while because we will be moving and packing and doing all of that, but bear with me, and yes, I'm just so excited and I'm so grateful and feeling super, super blessed. So thank you for taking the time to watch this video and hang out with us today. I really, really appreciate it. And Lee said he had a little something he wanted to do.
Oh,
No,
I mean,
you
you're
got
putting a lot of pressure on me.
Nothing. He's got nothing. Never mind.
No, I just wanted to say that, like, it's always possible. There's so many opportunities out there. You just got to be smart with your money. Keep pushing forward, and stuff presents itself if you give it the time and the chance. Um, you find wonderful people, find wonderful opportunities. It may be tough along the way. We've definitely had our tough road along the, or like coming up to this point, but
Whatever. Our life's easy peasy.
exactly, lemon squeezy. But we've found ourselves here, and it's a very exciting time.
It's the most exciting time. Like, I can't even handle it. I'm so grateful and excited. So, yay! I hope y'all are excited to join us on our journey as we settle into our new home and our next chapter. Yeah. Woo!
We gotta get moving, so.
Oh. All right, he's ready to get moving. So thank you so much, you guys. I can't wait to talk to you again soon, wherever you are in the world. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day or night, and thank you so much for watching. I will talk to you again real soon. I gotta go catch up with him. Sending love.